March 2nd, 2022. This meeting will be conducted in a hybrid manner. We both have, obviously, a lot of people in person here, and we also have people that have dialed in, and perhaps also people online and on the phone. So welcome, everybody. Appreciate all the attendance we have tonight. We have a, fortunately, I think, fairly light agenda before the last issue that we want to put on the table. And would like to work through those items first before we get to the discussion, which I'm sure most of you are here for. So with that, first item that we have on our agenda is a notice of intent for 41 Nons Road, map 5, parcel W1-19, a pier, ramp, float, and dredging.
Yes.
Good evening.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? And now we can finally understand each other. It's even better.
Yeah.
You're welcome. For the record, I'm Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, representing the Pies who are in the audience. That's Beth and Andy. They have a house at 41 Nons Road, and we are presenting a proposal for a dock in this location. So usually what I'll do is I'm going to go through the technical review of it and how we arrive at the decision we are at, and why the dock is where it is, why it's configured the way it is. After that, we'll introduce you one by one to the rest of the team, and certainly answer any questions that the board has. So first of all, we sited this dock to the far left of the property as you look to the waterway. Seeing the channel at low tide, this is the widest part of the existing channel. Having said that, the existing channel is probably somewhere between 25 and 28 feet wide at this point. It was recently redredged in 2019, was my understanding. And so the first thing I want to say is, unbeknownst maybe to some of you guys, the people who got the filing, we had incorrectly submitted a previous proposal that went to waterways. So this went to waterways with a dock that was 3 feet longer. That was the plan that was initially submitted. I didn't catch that in my review. I filed the plan. That is entirely my mistake. I take the heat for that. So the plan that you guys eventually got is the right one. This is a 41-foot dock with a ramp and float that extends 61 feet beyond mean high water. There is a dredging proposed to dredge to -3, and that provides -3 mean low water at the landward edge of the float and, of course, the seaward edge. So all sides of the float have -3 feet of water. We're only dredging to the existing channel, so we're not dredging in the existing channel. We're not changing the width of the existing channel in any way. We're merely providing a parking space for a boat that is 8.5 feet wide. And there's 14.5 feet between the seaward edge of the float where we daylight out at -3 to the beginning of the side cut of the channel. The dock is proposed with 5 feet to the underlying structural member. That's in accordance with DEP Chapter 91 for providing public access under the pier instead of up and over and down the other side. And it also meets your proposed bylaw. It exceeds your current bylaw, but it meets your proposed bylaw for 1.25 to 1 height ratio if you're just over coastal beach. So the main ingredient here that makes the project a lot simpler is that we're not going over any salt marsh. It's just over coastal beach. And as I say, the dock itself only extends 41 feet. So anybody who was out there at the site today, the first PVC pipe is the end of the dock. And I was just out there at 5 o'clock around low tide, and the water was this far seaward of that pipe. So the dock is on the beach. There's nothing that remains in the water, especially for seasonal removal of the float. We moved it to the far left because that's the widest part of the channel. And it's 25 feet from the property line, which is in accordance with Chapter 91. The dredging is all of, what did I say, 65 cubic yards. So that's under the 100 cubic yard threshold that needs a water quality certificate. Even so, having said that, the dredging is 27 feet from the marsh. which would be in accordance with the water quality certificate if we needed one, but we're even further away than we need to be. So dimensionally, design-wise, it meets all of the current and proposed bylaws that the commission has in front of them. There is, of course, the one variance for siting a dock in Shellfish. I'm not even going to get into that discussion. I'm going to leave that with Brian. There is an extensive narrative and actually a shorter variance request that outlines why we're asking for that request and why this dock can meet that performance standard without providing any negative impact to Shellfish. Any questions on the design? Okay. Having heard none, the next person I'm going to introduce you to will be Matt Creighton of BSC Group. Their company performed the Shellfish Survey. They're well known in Harwich, and I'll let him present the Shellfish Survey. Matt, are you on?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Again, for the record, Matthew Creighton with BSC Group. So BSC provided the Shellfish Survey for this project. We've conducted 67 total plots out there, spaced about 10 feet apart, and with transects about 10 feet wide. 10 feet apart as well. We found a total of 43 quahogs at the site. We didn't find any oysters or soft shell clams within the survey area. And so, as far as the project is concerned, BSC had made the recommendation that we would recommend relocating any shellfish in the dredge area prior to work starting. They can be relocated just kind of outside of the work area. In addition to talking to Mark earlier today, it sounds like this area is actually seeded for quahogs, so it's not surprising that we found any. It's a good thing that we did, but it also means that any relocation of the shellfish bed would pretty much just reseed itself once the following year comes through and you guys go ahead and seed that. So we don't believe it's going to be any impact to shellfish at all with this project. If anything, it would just kind of be a temporary relocation. So I'll let Mark take it from there.
Okay, thank you, Matt. One thing I forgot to mention was for those that might be new to the area, this whole embayment, all of Oyster Creek, was dredged, I think, in 1927. Is that the? 26. 1926. So it was, I think it was just a creek, and they came in and just dredged the whole thing out, put the spoils up on the land, built around it and all that. So the entire area would be considered private tidelands because it's been altered by man, but the entire area has been altered. Of course, the channel was dredged 2016, I think. 2014. See, he's got all the numbers. And then redredged in 2019. So it's a highly altered area that continues to get, that will continue to get dredged at some point. I don't expect the channel to fill in at any, not very often is what I'm saying, because there's no more sediment source. But I want to mention that is an entirely man-made area. And I didn't get to the ramp and float, but the float is 6 by 24. It is within your 200 square foot bylaw. The separation between adjacent structures is 169 feet to the dock to the west, and 104 feet to the access stairs to the east. So it's plenty of room. I think that was all I wanted to add to it. I'm sorry. So, and there is one mooring. So Mr. and Mrs. Pye have one mooring that they're using in front of the site. That will be eliminated for this project. Okay, I'm sorry. So the next person, Lindsay, I'm going to step away. You can take my seat. Lindsay's going to describe the mitigation. For those of you who are out there, there was a row of little white flags that marks the mitigation. And it's not only on the entire face of the coastal bank, but it comes up over the top as well. And then I'll let you.
So the idea here is to try and reestablish a native plant community. From my understanding, there was beach grass planted there at the time the original bulkhead was put in. It's met with different fates, whether it was just maintenance efforts or just not, managed properly. There is some existing plant material, so what we're going to do is let that grow up, see what's native, what we can save, and then augment that. The idea is to recover a maritime thicket right across the top of that bulkhead, and then leading up over into the lawn area to give us a little bit more of a transition buffer to that naturalized maritime thicket. The other issue is we've got a pitch pine that's right on the edge, and during all of the other construction, the seaward portion of that taproot is pretty much exposed for all intents and purposes. If that goes, that really destroys the integrity of the top of the coastal bank, not to mention the liability with it being so close to the house. The other ones seem to be okay at this point, so we're not looking to remove anything else. That being said, we're going to move right down to where the entrance is for the bulkhead, and then on that southwestern portion, from the edge of the existing marsh on the adjacent property to where those white flags are located, there's approximately 400 square feet down there. We're going to remove that lawn and make that another transition area to the marsh that's there. So we are going to have a net reduction of lawn area within the managed landscape. That's the extent of it. We do have, management and monitoring protocol that goes on beyond the 3-year order of conditions typically. So we tell people it's 3 to 5 years just to manage that so it becomes established. The other aspect, one last point, is that that small failing kind of independent section of retaining wall is going to be removed. We're going to regrade that, place a couple boulders there, and plant it appropriately. That'll also get some old pressure-treated material out of the buffer zone.
Great.
I think I'm finished.
Good. Thank you.
That means I'm on deck. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Brian Wall. You've seen me before. I'm an attorney. I have an office in Sandwich, and I represent Mr. and Mrs. Pye along with the other members of the team. I'm here to address a variance and a procedural matter that I'm going to talk about. But before I do, I just want to emphasize, Mark had mentioned in his presentation that this had been to the Waterways Committee, and I didn't hear him say that they approved the project. So I'm sure you know the harbor master is on the committee, and so I think you might hear some concerns from neighbors about effects on navigation, but this has been approved by the Waterways Committee. And as Mark did say, the Pies have the right to a mooring that's essentially in the middle of this channel, and they have a boat that kind of swings around on that mooring. That part of the proposal is that if this pier is approved, the mooring will be relinquished to open up the channel. Having said that, turning to the variance, so we have requested a variance from Section 110(3)(b)(8), which is a prohibition on new docks in a mapped shellfish area. And I know the commission's familiar with the variance procedures. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the board is authorized to grant a variance if there's a clear and convincing showing by the applicant that the proposed work will not adversely affect the interests protected by the bylaw, and in this case particularly shellfish, since the variance is requested from a shellfish matter. So in considering this request, that what's relevant here is, again, as Mark mentioned, Oyster Creek is a man-made area. It was dredged by a waterways license issued in 1926. That's part of the file. It was again entirely dredged in 2009 and partially dredged in 2014. So obviously it's a man-made area, and it's been subjected to man-made activities for quite a long time, almost 100 years. There are many other docks in the water body, and this particular dock, as Mark has suggested, uses the most modern design. It's a monopile with 3 piles on the beach and a float that conforms to your regulations. Given that, and given the testimony of Matt Creighton, who said that he believes, in his professional opinion, there'll be very minimal, if any, impacts on shellfish other than the temporary construction and the dredging, we would suggest to you that we've made a showing that this project can be approved in the sense that it does not adversely affect interests protected by the bylaw. The variance provision also says, and I quote, that desirable relief may be granted if there is neither substantial detriment to the public good nor nullification or substantial derogation to the intent or the purpose of the bylaw. Again, we would suggest there's no detriment to the public good, and that due to the nature of the project and the nature of the resources at issue, that there's not any adverse impacts. And finally, your variance provisions do say that the commission may take into account mitigation measures. And under this particular project, there are 1,448 square feet of mitigation planting proposed, and also a $6,000 contribution to the Shellfish Fund to be used by Natural Resources for seeding anywhere that he deems appropriate. So given all of that, we would suggest that a variance is warranted and appropriate in this case, and that you can feel comfortable granting one. I'm available for any questions on that, but I mentioned a procedural matter. So I just want to tell you that even before we've heard any comments from the commission, we are going to be asking for a continuance of up to 30 days. And the reason we're doing that is because after we filed this application, Mr. and Mrs. Pye were contacted by some neighbors, and I was contacted by Attorney Jim Quirk, who I saw in the audience earlier today. Attorney Quirk represents the Oyster Creek Preservation Association, which is an association of neighbors regarding this creek. They had asked us to postpone this hearing for 30 days, and I consulted Mr. and Mrs. Pye and Mr. Burgess about this, and we felt that that was not really appropriate to delay the process for a full 30 days, and we expect comments from the commission, and we were going to expect a continuance that was likely. So I contacted Attorney Quirk and I said, we'll meet you halfway. We will ask for a continuance of 30 days so that your clients and you will have enough time to review the proposal and make any comments. And I actually put that in an email to Amy so that the neighbors would be assured that we would be asking for the continuance. So when we're all done with this, we'll be asking for a continuance. And with that, that's the conclusion of our team's presentation. We're available for any questions, and we're certainly open to hearing any comments that you might have.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amy, do you have comments?
Thank you. So for the commission's perspective, there are 4 resource areas for this project: land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, coastal bank, and coastal beach. I'm not going to go into too much detail because, again, I know we're coming back for a continuance, so I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. One question I had was the coastal bank itself, which is where the mitigation planting or mitigation is to occur. It has been historically mown completely right up to the bulkhead. Typically, that activity of mowing on and on top of within a coastal bank is not something the commission would allow. I am curious about how long that has been going on before we get too much farther. So
I'm going to, if you want to speak to that, you can go to the podium, you can come up here and say
Hi, I'm Andy Pye. How are you?
hi.
We had a bittersweet or something in there, a vine that was not really evasive. I was evasive, and we were trying to keep that down. And yes, it was about 1.5 years,
Okay.
2 years. And I didn't know.
Yeah.
But we are going to change it with mitigation. I would much rather have the way that it's going to be set.
I understand that. My reason for asking that is whether or not my reason is that shouldn't have happened. Even it is bittersweet. We would have permitted that, but it was an action that happened without without being approved by conservation, really right on top of the resource area. So we probably would have permitted that administratively had we known about it. Whether or not the letting of that area regrow and supplementally replant, that will be up to the commission to determine if that is mitigation for this project or if that just needs to occur, period, because it was altered without permit. So that's something we'll have to look into a little bit further. I'm more than happy to chat with you. I know we're going to continue, so I'm happy to chat with you. Sorry it didn't come up before that. I was so focused on the dock piece of things. I wasn't as focused on the bank piece of things. So getting back to the dock, there is no salt marsh in direct proximity, which is a good thing. And they do meet a lot of the performance standards for what we have, or exceed them. They are proposing a 1.25 to 1 height to width ratio, which is more than what we require now and what we hope to require at town meeting for when you don't have a salt marsh underneath. There's gonna be 3/4 inch spacing on the decking. Again, that's what we're gonna be asking for at town meeting. But currently we only require 1/2 inch. We got rid of the discrepancies in sizing, so I appreciate that. There were a number of shellfish found, 86 shellfish in the 61 plots that were taken. Actually, all 86 were found in 23 of those plots. Each plot was 3 by 3 for a total area of 549 square feet. They sampled to a depth of 1.5 feet. This is a town and state mapped area for shellfish. Only various sizes of quahogs were found here, as they stated, not soft shells, not oysters. They also did find rib mussels and periwinkles. The survey does show, when you look at the survey plots, that quahogs were found pretty evenly distributed on the project site, from just above mean low water to outwards of the proposed float. This is an area that is seeded. It is encouraging to see a various size class mix of shellfish there, because it means not only they're putting out seed, but they're replenishing themselves, if you will. It's a viable habitat. So I am not going to make a recommendation tonight because there's going to be some conversation with the abutters and the neighbors. I don't know if the project is going to change at all as a result of that, so I'm not going to make any recommendation to the commission tonight. And that will sum up my summary, Mr. Chairman.
Art, before I ask the commissioners for comments on this, is there anyone from the audience that has any comments or questions on this proposal? Yes.
Good evening. Arlene Wilson, A.M. Wilson Associates, here for Oyster Creek Preservation, Inc. And I think you all have the letter that I wrote with my comments on the project. I still believe that there are a few lingering issues. Most importantly, there's no way to tell about impacts on the navigation channel and how far in they are, because the survey doesn't go all the way across the waterway. So there's no way for them to measure. We can measure off the old plans, but there seems to be a lot going on here in terms of movement of the substrate. One thing that's a little bit strange to me is that there's a real discrepancy in the plans in the file as to where mean high water is. The March 2021 plan that was given to the Waterways Committee shows mean high water against the wall. And if you look at the area, there's significant staining on the bulkhead, which would indicate that the water hits that bulkhead regularly. That mean high water location is carried in the notice of intent, both in the mitigation sketch and in the Shellfish Survey sketch that are provided. However, the August 21 plan, which was the one that was given to you originally and has now been updated to, I think, 2/22 of this year, shows mean high water about 20 feet out from the wall. So I think somebody needs to take a look at that and give you an explanation, give all of us an explanation about what's going on. That's not a simple datum change, because when you change the datum, you change the numbers on the contours, but you don't change where high and low water are. And that can be, it seems to me, a real problem. Amy asked about the history of the mowing on the bank, and I can probably give you a little bit of background there so that Amy can go find the stuff in her file. Quite a while ago, before the dredging that OCPI did, the McKevitts were having an erosion problem at the toe of the bank, and came in to do erosion control. The commission wanted that to be non-structural initially, and so they did some work with coconut fiber rolls, reshaping the bank. They flattened it out a little bit. They couldn't do much because the house is pretty close to the top. And they replanted. Unfortunately, it was a very dry season. The seed mix on the bank wasn't watered regularly, and it didn't take very well. Subsequently, of course, they came in for the bulkhead. That was a number of years later. And I believe the bank has been mowed ever since the bulkhead went in, but it probably went back to the failure of the original bank stabilization planting. So that's probably 30 years. I'm also a little concerned about the variance issue. I don't do a lot of pier work in Harwich. Obviously, you don't see me very often here. But the regulations, the way they're written, makes it sound as though you need to have 2.5 feet of water at the end of the pier before you start dredging or changing bathymetry. Clearly, that's your regulation. You may interpret it differently. And there's nothing to prevent somebody from coming in to do exactly what the pies want to do, which is to dredge to make that depth available. But it seems to me that that may need a variance in order for you to allow them to do that work. And lastly, I am concerned about the mitigation. When the bulkhead went in, and if you look at that old bulkhead plan, you will see that there were pieces of salt marsh that ran just below the bulkhead, intermittently across the site. The bulkhead construction has caused erosion at the base, nothing that should have been a surprise to anybody, but part of that erosion has been the destruction of those small pieces of salt marsh. Further, BSC actually did the plans and permitting for that wall, and there is a document in that file from BSC that talked about mitigation planting of salt marsh below the wall after the construction. It is my understanding and my observation that that planting never happened. They were issued a COC. It's unfortunate, but it seems to me that now that the work that's being proposed is work in the waterway, that the mitigation for the pier ought to be in direct relation to the pier construction. And the way to do that is to require them now to go back to that piece from the wall construction that said, we're going to build salt marsh and this is how we're going to do it, and have them do it. It will be to their benefit if they're going to dredge. They want to make sure that they don't get continuing erosion in the beach area, which is what's going on, that runs down into their dredge basin and into the OCPI dredge channel, and is one of the reasons that the area needs to be dredged with some regularity. So if you can hang on to some of that sediment and keep it from running down into the dredge area, we'll all benefit. In addition, of course, the salt marsh has water quality benefits and shellfish benefits. All well and good for them to do planting on the slope, and getting rid of the retaining wall that's a third of the way up the slope is interesting, but it talks about there needing to be grading, and if you look at the grades on that plan, there certainly will be a need to do grading, and none of that grading is shown. And lastly, the construction protocol seems to me that the machine that is going to be big enough to reach 80 feet over that wall to dredge is going to be a very sizable machine. I talked to a couple of contractors that we work with frequently. They both spec, I said, what kind of a machine does this? And they both gave me the same machine that I mentioned in my letter. And that machine is 11 feet 3 inches wide. They have to bring that down. What they show as their construction access, the only area that's flat enough in that construction access is a straight shot through the shed. So the shed needs to be moved. Not an impossibility, but there's very little space on the lot to store the shed while that construction's going on. And then the machine with that arm needs to turn, and the arm needs to turn so that they can access a truck. What they're saying is they're going to run the spoil directly from the water into a dump truck. I'm not sure they can do that, but were they to do it, it seems to me that there are at least 6 and maybe as many as 8 mature pitch pines in the area of that shed that are going to have to go so that the machine can access the water. It would be much simpler to do their dredging from the water. They need to bring a barge in to put the piles in for the pier anyway. They could come in, do the dredging, use the same machine, and put the piles in afterwards, and it would be much less disruptive. It also seems to me that they can't really put this wet spoil directly into a truck. They're going to have to dewater it, which is another piece of land that's going to be disrupted while they do that. So it just needs to be thought through a lot more carefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have another hearing that I need to attend. Could I ask for comments from the commission related directly to me, and then I have to scoot?
Sure. Start with Alan.
I have no comment.
Wayne?
No comment. Eileen covered it pretty well.
Brad?
Not too much right now, Mark. You've got to take off, and my review's not complete, so I look forward to reviewing the full file. I will say that, given our bylaws that seek to not have new structures in areas that have shellfish habitat, as well as the requirement for 2.5 feet that need no water, those are 2 variances, and so those are 2 challenges I think we all have to recognize, and I have concerns about those as well.
Great.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Mark?
No remarks, thank you.
Good. No, I think when we come back and reopen this hearing at the next 2 weeks?
30 days.
30 days.
April 6th.
Yeah, April
Okay.
6th.
Did you address the made by Arlene tonight?
Yeah, we're going to respond in writing to all of Arlene's concerns and yours.
Good, great, good.
Absolutely.
And also the Shellfish Survey, I assume, is there a map of the plots that were sampled?
That's should be on the plan. That's the red
Isn't there? I
lines.
didn't see it in the material. Not on this document, I know.
It might be in your Dropbox.
Was there narrative in along with that as well? I didn't see that.
The transects are the black lines right here that correspond to the Shellfish Survey.
Oh, all right,
Is
so,
there a formal report as well?
Oh, yeah, Matt submitted it. It's in the file.
It's in your Dropbox.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
good. We'll
Thank
take
you
a
very
look at
much.
that.
I'm sorry, I don't usually have to leave, but one thing's backed up into another.
No problem. So can I have a motion to continue this to April
6.
6th?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing on the notice of intent for 41 Nose Road, map 5, parcel W1-16 until April 6, 2022.
Thank you. Can we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in a month.
All right. The next item we have on the agenda is a notice of intent for 280 Bank Street, map 32, parcel A2-5 for pool and walkway.
Well, I had made you additional comments that that needs to be further altered anyways. I'll bring it here. Okay.
Good evening. I'm going to take this down. Thank you for scheduling the hearing. I'm Kathleen Lockyer, who's one of the residents with my husband of the house at 280 Bank Street. We've been in residence there for 40 years, and that's a long time. We've certainly enjoyed living there. We moved full-time down because I kept working and finally stopped working. We moved down in 2018. That was when we moved full-time. So what we're talking about building here is a building that is going to have inside it a therapy pool. It's not a lap pool, although it looks like one, and I actually have one picture I can pass around if you people would like to see it, because it gives you an idea of it. And the reason why we want to build that therapy pool is my husband, who was, quite able to negotiate everything physically, gradually, as he became ill, that was difficult for him. One of the most important things for him is to remain active, and that's for all of us, of course, but for him it was a vital piece of life for him. Unfortunately, in April, actually on Patriots' Day of 2020, he took a fall in the house, which resulted in a catastrophic, that's the term of the surgeon, not me, injury to his right leg. And he had 4 fractures, and it was very unclear whether he was going to be able to walk. And just because of his age and the fact that he would be have a long period of rehabilitation. So luckily he can walk, but he has a lot of difficulty with safe balance and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, the thing that's going to help that is more active living with those muscles and so forth and so on. So I had found this therapy pool. So it is, and if you don't mind, can I pass this around?
Take it, I'll bring it.
Who is the chairperson, I guess?
That's fine.
Oh,
You can
that,
start it over there and we'll pass it
okay,
down.
all right, great.
I'll take it.
Thank you. So I'd found this therapy pool. There are 4 therapy pools on the Cape, which we went to look at to try to take him to, which is a formidable challenge. All of them, of course, closed with COVID. So that was when we started looking for what are some other possibilities for him to have some more activity and not spend as much of his life, in the house and inactive as he does. So I found this therapy pool. It's actually made in Fall River, which was an education for me. There's a lot that's interesting about it, but one of the things we need to do is have it indoors for year-round usage, and there were some solutions to that. I was lucky enough to go in back in the fall to a meeting of all the departments, and I had met Amy previously, but met her again there. And that resulted in us kind of structuring what we're asking for tonight. There were some other different ideas we had, and with the input from those people, we have changed the structure, changed the size, changed the placement of what we're requesting. And just to mention, of all the medical people involved, his surgeon, his doctor, his VA doctor, my husband's a veteran of the Marine Corps. All of them support him having this opportunity to be able to use it. As a matter of fact, one of his doctors kind of stopped talking on our video chat when I told him what we were hoping to do, and said if he were able to wish for most of his elderly clients a way to exercise without the risk of fall, that he would have about 60% less people on his roster every week, because it would just be so good for him. So that was just anecdotally what the project is. It has come to be an addition that would be on the side of our kitchen. We have tried to respect all the variances involved, all the limitations. We restructured, and it was an education for me, all of that. Although I've known, the basic lot lines and that kind of thing, there was a lot more to it, is what I found out. And in particular, I met Jennifer, and luckily, that was a lucky day for me, because we have a lot of land that does have, our lot is actually 2.13 acres, and most of it is in something other than a buildable area. So, but when I met Jennifer, and she started working with us on our landscaping, I got an education. Amy was helpful with that. So what we hope to do is build an addition for the pool. The addition is under 500 feet, and the main function of it is to have the pool that we can use within the house, and hopefully make a more healthful situation for my husband and for myself, I think. So I'll ask Jennifer to start talking about the issues that we have discussed with the lot, and any of the limitations we've tried to respond to.
Sure. Would you like me to submit the plant list? Do you need that?
That would be okay. So if I can just preface this by saying they have this is in your Dropbox, but they brought the paper copies here. There will probably be some other minor edits that will need to be made, but I think for purpose of discussion, it would be good to have them in front of you.
Okay.
The second sheet is the plant.
Thank you.
This is the altar.
Thank you.
It's a very strange size.
That's okay. Thanks very much.
There's a plan in the Dropbox that seems to show the plantings themselves.
Yes, I asked for them to bring paper copies, because not everybody is using their iPads or whatnot, laptops at the meeting.
Thank you.
Jennifer, do you happen to have the revised, you also do have the revised site plan from Dave Croto?
Yes, would you like?
Yes,
we have
please,
many
'cause
copies of this.
That would be great, because that shows, this doesn't show the 100-foot buffer,
Right.
but this does.
These do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there an extra copy we can look at?
Oh, yes. I'll take you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have, she has an issue in her back portion of her property, which would be facing west. It segues into conservation land and native, wetlands, and so it currently has a lot of native plants in it, of course, but two of them we really don't like so much. The Mexican knotweed, Philopia japonica, and also the poplars. So they're just taking over like wildfire. And knotweed is extremely difficult to extract. So my best experience is trying to suffocate it or putting a canopy of plantings over it so it kind of chokes the sun out. That seems to be the best. Cutting it down to the ground and then planting really close to it so you have a canopy. I've tried for years to dig it out, and that just makes it increases it greatly. It doesn't work. So the plantings that I chose for this project, for the mitigation, like the sweet fern, which can get up to almost 3 feet tall, I thought that would be a lovely canopy, and they reproduce nicely on their own. And you'll see all of the plant lists. We're trying to keep it low, somewhat in the front, and then a gradation of height towards the woodsier section of the property. So if you have any questions on the plantings, that's what we're proposing, is to try to discourage the poplar, the invasive species, and encourage the good native plants for the benefit of flora and fauna. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Amy, you have comments?
Sure. So we've had Jennifer and Kathleen and Dan Croto is their engineer, have been having a lot of back and forth about this plan. The site plan that you were just given does show the deck. Jennifer, your plan would have to be changed a little bit to show that there's a deck there.
Right.
Involves a little bit of plant tweaking.
Yes.
And there is a generator pad now out there. It did come to our attention, and I mentioned it to Kathleen. The generator pad is brand new. It's in the 50-foot no disturb zone. We probably would have asked, to locate it elsewhere, had we known. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations. You know that any activity within the 100-foot buffer needed to come before conservation. But it's a small thing, but that little thing didn't. That would typically require a variance because
Didn't
it's
know
in
that.
And then, well, I, again, did say anything within the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, you did.
And the walkway that leads to your house, which I understand is for access, ADA access, that's other activity that was never permitted by this board. So that needs to get incorporated into this. The commission has to say how we're going to incorporate potentially that into this request. The walkway I wouldn't have seen as an issue. You'd mitigate for it at a 2-to-1 ratio. But the commission, you'd have to explain why that generator pad, and not right this second, but why that has to be where it is and could not have been outside at least the 50-foot buffer zone, which is our bylaw no disturb zone. Again, it seems brand new. So for the actual proposed addition that would house your spa pool, I don't have too many, I think what you're proposing for planting is a good planting plan. It's nice and dense. I'll be interested to see how just shading knotweed out is going to work, because it's so aggressive. I think it's just going to be extremely arduous and time consuming annually to have to go and all the individual sprigs cut them. And I'm a little concerned that the constant intrusion into that area that you're supposed to naturalize in order to get these new saplings, how is that going to impact what you're trying to do, which is naturalize the area? We don't normally promote herbicide treatment at all. Was there a consideration for a cut and wipe treatment of this?
I personally do not use any chemicals in my business. The other solution that I found has been very effective is, which I'm not sure how the board feels about this process, but I've used actually really thick wool rugs to suffocate them, and it does kill them over time.
How much time, though? I mean, we don't want to leave it. This is
Actually,
the buffer.
within a season, because it robs them of photosynthesis and water. And then you move that rug around. It's a crazy concept. I've really studied up on knotweed. And the most interesting study that I read was on Mount Hood in Oregon. The National Park Service had 32 acres that they were trying to extract the Vulpia japonica from, and they were unsuccessful. And they spent loads, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a really tough plant, the toughest I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
But the rug does work. It's suffocation. So that's something.
Something potentially to consider.
Yes.
On the whole, I think the planting plan is good. If the commission, a couple of the commissioners went out there today with me, a couple may have gone on their own. You notice that a lot of the area that is proposed for mitigation has already been cut. That is because they did ask and got permission administratively to remove the invasives, to just cut them, and that's why they weren't excavated. So you saw the knotweed and the poplar stems out there. You saw the very few natives that were within that were still left. So if that was because they did get a permit from us to take care of the invasives. So I think what you're offering as mitigation could, it's more, and I do believe that this is mitigation. Yes, it's removal of invasives. I can just tell you, this entire backyard was chock-a-block full of invasives. So it's not like there was really anything, hardly anything good in there. So mitigating by redoing that, just being honest.
We share the same backyard.
Yeah. Yeah, so this will be good too. So I do view what they're proposing as mitigation, which is only a portion of the replanting area, is actually the mitigation, as mitigation for this. I'm interested in the techniques. I think you could easily, this mitigation would easily cover the little bit of a walkway that's in the 100-foot buffer zone. But I guess I am interested, and maybe the commission is too, about that generator pad. Does it have to be right where it is?
That was the most convenient thing because it's close to gas access out there, and one of the considerations was the noise factor. You know, they're pretty loud, and I didn't want to add to that with the neighbors. Now, there were some other possibilities for it, which would be, but mostly the issue was that Home Depot dropped it in our driveway one day, and we had to get it moved. And it's just a long story. So, and that was the decision we made quite hurriedly, because it was not supposed to come when it came, and it was dropped in the driveway. So.
Again, I know it's a small thing, but believe it or not, even little small things in the 50-foot buffer tend to be a big deal. So I think, technically mitigation for that would be at least 4 to 1. I think they still could accomplish that with this wholesale replanting that they're doing. But I'll turn it over to the commission. We would need a minor revised planting plan from you, Jennifer.
Yes,
So.
sure. Certainly.
I should just mention that the person who is working with me as a contractor is here tonight if there's any questions that for him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peter DiBiase, yellow shirt.
Thank you. Comments from the commissioners? Alan?
I have no comment. I think it's a good plan. I wish you luck with it.
Thank you.
Good. Wayne, any questions?
No, that looks great to me.
I heard you talking about 280 Bank Street earlier. Do you had some knowledge of the history of that?
Oh, yeah, well, I was telling Alan about the sawmill that used to be there.
Absolutely.
Fred Crow built it after the 1938 hurricane.
It's quite a history there. And then there's Chief White Cloud that used to roam there. That's why it has good soil.
Yeah.
Brad?
I have to abstain. I have a conflict here.
Okay. Jim?
I have no further questions.
I have no remarks, thank you.
Okay. I have just a couple of comments. The plan that I have, the planning plan proposes a walkway that goes from the back of the spa all the way around the house to the opposite side, and it cuts through the 50-foot no disturb zone. And the reason that we have that 50-foot no disturb zone, plus we've extended it to a 60-foot zone for no structures,
I do know that.
is to keep people out of there.
Okay.
So I
So-
wouldn't be in favor of having a walkway through that zone.
I actually,
Something we knew?
I actually placed that there
Okay.
because which we can omit, absolutely. I just felt with a bearberry, that's a ground creeper, it would be, encompassing that whole backyard eventually because it grows almost like, a little bit like a cranberry bog. It spreads like a carpet. But we can omit that. That's,
All right.
So it's a
Not a
plant,
problem. I was suggesting maybe a rock pathway or shell
Okay.
pathway, something rather native and natural, but I understand completely
Yeah,
that.
we discourage
Right.
any activities in
Okay.
there, so that's not.
Understood.
I would like to see, I assume you're coming back with new plans?
I mean, what the change would be is really the change to the planting plan. And technically, if they want to keep the generator pad there, they really need to be asking for a variance.
All right, well, the planting plan
So-
doesn't reflect the deck.
The planting plan does not reflect the deck, so we do need that changed. And really, we do need at least a written request for a variance.
We'll be glad to do that. That's my problem, because I just needed to get it out of the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to penalize you for that small thing,
No.
but we
No,
legally
I
need
get
that.
it. I understand. It's an education.
Is it hooked up already?
It's not hooked up.
So you could place it elsewhere?
We can look into it. Can we look?
The
look
commission
into it?
typically does request that, this would have to be a last-ditch effort. If there is somewhere else to put it, it shouldn't be in the 50.
Okay, and then if, depending on what it is, you want a request? Or
If
you
it
want?
stays in the 50, it would have to be a variance request,
All right. Okay.
which the commission may or may not grant.
Okay.
I would encourage you to look, not to create more work, but I would encourage you to look at another location for it.
Okay.
And I guess the last thing, and I would echo Amy's comments about that knotweed, that just plucking is, you can be doing that for years. I think if your rug idea works, then that's great.
Right.
Maybe you'd have time to get that down and get that killed off before you're in a position to do the plantings and everything.
Right. It's,
But,
it's a challenge. Knotweed is very challenging.
And that's all I have. So let me ask if there are questions from the audience.
If you wouldn't
Yes,
mind
sir.
coming up to the podium,
You can stand at the
just so
podium
the
and
audience,
give us your name,
everybody
sir.
can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm
the
sorry.
people online
Come to you,
can.
Jim, next.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have comments?
Okay, I got conned into doing this. I'm Paul Gigley. I live at 276 Bank, which we're the adjacent property. My only question is, the spa pool, is that going to be actually a structure, a building?
The pool itself is going to be inside the building.
Yeah, I know. Usually, I saw some online that they look like they're self-sufficient, but I'm just wanting to know, is there going to be a structure around it?
In addition.
It has to be, it's going, yes.
Okay.
Do you want to comment about that, Peter?
It's a 16 by 30 addition,
Yeah, okay.
all right, with an A-frame roof,
Yeah, okay.
and there's 2 windows on the side. All right.
And my apologies, I'm going to ask Jim and Mark for comments on this, please.
I have no comments.
Mark?
I have a couple questions. Your pool and spa equipment, filter and pump and all that apparatus, will that be within the footprint of the building, or will that be outdoors?
It will be, well, I can let Peter, we actually,
That mechanism is all going to be inside an accessible crawl space inside the unit.
Okay. The generator, is that a LP gas, or is that natural gas?
Natural gas.
Okay.
That can be easily moved because it's not even hooked up yet.
Okay. There's no notation about a drawdown pit for draining the spa and the pool. That water needs to be managed, so you're gonna wanna address that as well.
Yeah. That's gonna go into the main drain system in the house.
You're gonna dump you're gonna dump that in the septic system?
It's fresh water, and you're talking about any splash water?
No, whether, if you have to dispose of the water in the pool.
Oh, that'd be siphoned out by a outside tanker if any of that comes.
Point being is there should be a pit outside
Yeah.
to handle that, and that's not on the plan. There's no indication of what your mechanicals are gonna be, so that does need to be addressed, because there's gonna be questions about that, I'm sure.
I have a lot more information about this pool. It's one of the best designed one in the
I'm not
country.
questioning that. I'm
But
just
so I don't
questioning
know
about the
the answer to your
locations.
question, but we'll be glad to provide some material.
Understood, but the information on the plan doesn't provide those items. That's my point. Okay.
Can
Thank you.
I bounce off that? Typically, for any pool, and we normally deal with outdoor ones, but we do require that any pool water be pumped and disposed of off-site, at least not within the
Okay.
100-foot buffer zone. So as far as like a pit within the 100-foot, that might be within the 100-foot buffer zone, that wouldn't likely be a possibility. So if there was water to be drawn down, we would likely recommend, have it be pumped off, brought off-site and disposed of.
So, Peter, you can work on that, but also we have another person from the pool company who will be coming out to work on that, so we can address that question to him.
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, I think there's a number of takeaways that you've got. And should we?
I think
how much long-
2
how-
weeks.
2 weeks?
It would,
Is
I
that
think
enough
2
time?
weeks be enough time. We're
Yes.
to continue you. We would need new information within a week, though, of today.
Okay.
So,
And Dan Coutreau could be here 2 weeks from, he
Okay.
couldn't be here tonight.
okay,
But he could be here in 2 weeks.
okay,
If there's any further questions.
great. It doesn't seem like you have a whole lot, but just a few other little things.
Okay.
So that meeting is the 16th, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. So can we have a motion to the next hearing to March 16th meeting?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I will move that we continue the hearing on the notice of intent for 280 Bank Street, map 32, parcel A2-5, until the meeting of March 16th, 2022.
Great, thank you, Jim. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Motion carries. Thank
I
you.
thank
Thanks.
all of
Thank
you
you
for
very
your
much.
comments and your time and your knowledge.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 1 Salt Meadow Lane, construction of a slope revetment and replacement of an existing dock.
Okay. Sorry, Salt Meadow Lane has asked for an indefinite continuance, so what that would mean is when they're ready to come back to the commission, they're gonna have to re-notify abutters. So you would make a motion to indefinitely continue 1 Salt Meadow Lane.
All right, may we have a motion for that?
Okay, I'll move that we indefinitely continue the hearing on the notice of intent for 1 Salt Meadow Lane, map 11, parcel C1.
Thank you. Can we have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Good. Next item on the agenda, change in plan for 49 Snowing Road, map 15, parcel N2, for reconstruction of an existing pier, ramp, float, and dredging.
They're gonna be online.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, Nate Jones, Coastal Engineering. So the plan has 3 changes from the approved plan. The first one being that we lowered the dredge depth by 6 inches. This was discussed at the hearing. The commission recommended that we go lower. We did some test borings and we found that it's mostly mud. So going 6 inches lower will get us down to some better soils. We also added handrails for the dock for safety reasons. It's only 3 feet wide, so the existing dock does not have handrails, so we wanted to put handrails on them. And the third thing was we added public passage steps to go up and over the dock as per Chapter 91 waterways request. Amy did bring up a comment about the stairs being in an area where some salt marsh mitigation was originally proposed. So I did send over a plan today. We moved the stairs seaward a little bit to get out of the salt marsh. So we're 10 feet off the bulkhead. So I have basically a draft plan ready to go. It's not signed or stamped by an engineer, but if the commission likes the location of the steps, we can follow up with a stamp plan. So I can entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you. Amy, do you have any comments?
Sure. I have no issue with the handrails or with the dredging an additional 6 inches. I did bring up the comment about the stairs because there's some fringe marsh there and they were going to try to replant that when they redid their dock. The lateral access stairs came up when they were looking to do their Chapter 91. I think it was Chapter 91, or was it Division of Marine Fisheries, Nate? I can't remember.
It's a 91 requirement.
91 requirement. So the structure has to be tall enough to pass under about 5 feet, or it has to have lateral access stairs. One of my questions is, could the structure be brought up so that we didn't need stairs at all? And I'll ask Nate to comment on that in a minute. Their solution, which is better than where it was, is to move the stairs 10 feet farther out. So it wouldn't be on marsh and it wouldn't be where marsh is proposed to be replanted, but not too far away. And I would be still a little concerned about potential scouring impacts of a staircase on adjacent marsh that you're trying to establish there. So in general, what was been rebuilt out there is a substantial improvement to what was there previously. So in general, I would be okay with the stairs 10 feet farther out, but I do want to hear some explanation about why it can't come up higher. I know currently that the dock connects to basically a stone wall that encompasses the property, and potentially instead of really going right out onto the dock, you might have to step up if you were gonna raise the dock higher. But okay, I'll be quiet now. Those are my only comments.
Would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, so on the raising issue, the requirement that 91 has is they want 5 feet of separation between mean high water elevation and the underside of the lowest structural member. So in doing that, we'd have to raise the dock 3 feet from what was approved. Okay. So that's about 5 steps up, which is something that the owner didn't want to do, just aesthetically and functionality wise. I think it would be a lot better if it was stayed at the elevation that it was approved at. And then again, on Amy's point about the salt marsh, we're going to have 10 feet of separation between the stairs and the bulkhead. And we were anticipating planting a 5 to 6 foot array of salt marsh under the dock in between that. So we'll still have about 4 feet of separation between the proposed salt marsh area and where the stairs are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, comments from the commissioners. Alan?
No comment.
Wayne, any questions?
I'm all set, yeah.
Brad?
Just a quick follow-up on Amy's comments. I think it's a really good concern to express for the salt marsh, but I think you're kind of handcuffed because Chapter 91 is saying you have to provide that public access, and it has to be the staircase or a certain height, and I don't think you can gain that height. I'd love to say just move the dock up a half a foot, and people that shellfish in this area would just duck their heads and go under, which is what people do now. So I don't know if there's a good solution there.
That wouldn't be enough for 91, though.
If
That's the
91
thing. It'd be
wouldn't-
enough for us, but
Right.
it wouldn't be enough for Chapter 91.
91 wouldn't accept that, so I
No.
think you're kind of, you're
Yeah.
stuck. And I think the staircase needs to go in, and I would just encourage you to work with Amy to try to find ways to minimize salt marsh impacts from the staircase. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jim, any questions?
No, I basically agree with Amy on her comments, but I'm sort of in favor of the stairway in the new location that they have suggested, as opposed to the location on the plan.
Mark?
No remarks, thank you.
Yeah, I echo Jim's comments and Amy's as well. I mean, I would prefer to have the stairway moved outside of the salt marsh. I don't think we have that much scouring that goes on in Winchmere anyhow, so.
There's not. I just wasn't exactly sure. I hadn't compared the approved plan that showed the width of salt marsh to this plan, because we did just get it, which is not a problem because it was a minor change. But I didn't have a chance to see that the salt marsh replant was only a 5-foot width. This is 10 feet out. There shouldn't be much impact. And there's also not a lot of erosion happening in Winchmere.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. Let me ask, are there any public comments, questions on this? Hearing none. Can we have a motion on this, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask a question with regard to a potential motion. In that, the plan that we have been presented with shows the stairs in a certain location, but it seems to be agreed that the stairs will be moved. Do we need to incorporate that into the motion?
The new plan that I was given today that I didn't have time to get to you, that does show that. I'm happy to show it to you.
Okay.
But yes, you can
No,
incorporate
that's
that into your
fine.
motion.
What I'll do is incorporate in the motion that it be in accordance with that plan that was presented to you
Perfect.
today. Okay? So then I'll proceed, and I'll move that we approve the change in plan for 49 Snow Inn Road, map 15, parcel N2, as shown on the plan that was presented to Amy today.
Can we have a second, please?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We're getting there, everyone. We have just a few more issues to go through. Next item on the agenda is order of conditions for 20 Chase Street, the replacement of a dock and a float.
Sorry, these made it into your Dropbox today. I did the other one way in advance, but not this one. If you have any questions on the special conditions, let me know. This was the only question I had was, we talked about float stops. Well, we didn't require it at the meeting. It wasn't part of the motion. We talked about it, but we kind of went along with that. It wouldn't be it would be a little awkward on this float to have float stops. I still put it in there as that they may have them, as not a requirement, but I put may.
All right.
You can leave that in or take that out if you want.
Yeah, on their application, did they suggest that they were going to have 3/4 inch spacing on the dock?
I don't remember.
Because you have 1/2 inch here. You
I
have at
think they
least 1/2
said,
inch, So,
I will check that. 1/2 inch is what we require.
yeah, I understand. But if they committed to 3/4, I would.
It should be on the plan notes. Does say 3/4 on the plan, sorry, I'll fix that.
I'll just change that one.
Yep.
Anybody else have any comments?
Number 6, special conditions. Did we specify anything beyond styrofoam? I know we said we did not want styrofoam used for flotation.
Right.
But did that other language, or any other type of flotation that degrades, was that part of our discussion?
Well, in general, we don't allow flotation that degrades. That's how our regulation reads.
Does it? 'Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, everything degrades at some point. What is the type, I guess I should ask then? What type of flotation is?
They were gonna use tubs.
Mhm.
I think we raised that issue at the hearing. And they said the black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the plans call for black tubs. Okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
I'll make a motion that we approve the order of conditions for 20 Chase Street, replacement of the dock and float with the condition that they change the spacing on item number 8 to 3/4 of an inch.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Next item, order of conditions for 2 Miller Todd Road.
Again, if you have any questions, this was to raise and replace a single-family dwelling, and put in a new addition on it. This one was fairly straightforward, because there was no expansion from existing footprint, just rebuild and reorientation. So there was no mitigation required for this one.
I had any changes to this one? I'll make a motion, we approve the order of conditions for 2 Miller's Todd Road, map 111, parcel K3-3.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a request for an extension of 61 Belzneck Road, map 18, parcel K6. This is an approval for a new dwelling and appurtenances, and they've requested a 3-year extension on that.
I'm not sure if there's anybody here or online to speak to this. If not, I can.
Yes. Hello. My name is David Nutter. This is my wife, Caitlin. We're currently dialing in from Maryland, and we purchased this beautiful lot. I think it was December we closed of 2020.
Okay, and you're requesting a 3-year extension. So for the commission, this is a vacant lot on Belzneck Road. It was for a new dwelling, and it went through several hearings. They did put the new house just outside the 60-foot no disturb zone, or 60-foot buffer. It is a vacant lot in its natural state. It does have a conservation restriction prohibiting activity on really the remainder of the property. They are asking for a 3-year extension. I did look at the plans and the proposal, and our regulations haven't changed since then. We had the 60-foot then, we have the 60-foot now. I'm curious, since you are on the line, what is your anticipated breaking ground date?
So to be honest with you, it has just been really difficult to even secure contractors in the whole Cape area. I've even started looking off Cape to just get bids for this kind of stuff. I guess the building market on the Cape has not, new building construction has not suffered as it has in some of the other parts of the country. And, people are slammed, contractors are slammed up there. I'm currently talking to 2 that I really hope will get us a bid for on a cost plus basis. But, by the time we get the bids, and then by the time we do the planning and renew the permit and just get on their schedule, I'm afraid that the reason why I'm requesting this now is because I'm just worried that we might lose the order of conditions. So I'm trying to be, ahead of the game here. And I would hate to lose the order of conditions. And I guess that wouldn't be the end of the world, having to apply for a new one. But, it would obviously involve a more detailed, in-depth hearing. But I just wanted to kind of get a jump on this and have some extra time for the things that we need to do.
Yep. No, that all makes sense. Just so the commission knows, their permit was set to expire this coming fall. So they still do have some time on it. I would recommend a one-time 3-year extension. I do know that construction contractors, engineers, everybody is really backed up right now. You bought the property early in 2020, so because our regulations haven't changed, I would just recommend a one-time 3-year extension.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to approve the extension for 3 years?
Are we gonna have some discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with Alan. Questions?
I don't have any questions.
Wayne?
None.
So I do have concerns, of course. It's a new ownership, It was a very challenging project to permit, and I think in cases like this, I would like to see the project come back before the commission with a new notice of intent. So that's my preference in this case.
Jim?
Okay, my only concern is that even viewing the current situation with getting builders to do jobs here on the Cape, I feel 3 years is a little bit too long. I would be more comfortable, with a 2-year extension, but, if they at least get started within that time but don't finish, they can get back to us for another extension. But I'm a little bit concerned about 3 years.
Mark?
I'm prepared to move to grant the extension.
The only comment I would have is if this is a pristine lot, it's native.
It is, there's really no invasive species on it.
Then filing a new notice of intent would probably require that they do in lieu of mitigation for this lot.
Potentially. Well, they put as mitigation the sellers of this property, the commission, and I haven't been through the filing a little while about this, but the conservation restriction, which they put on about 2 acres, I believe, of the property, was viewed as mitigation as well, as somewhat mitigation. Some of that area a lot of that area is no disturb zone, the 50-foot buffer, but there was a little bit of area, 50 to 100, potentially, that somebody could come down the line and ask to do a little something with, and we've restricted that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I guess I'm with the 2-year extension as opposed to a full 3. I think I understand what they're going through as far as trying to find contractors right now on the Cape. It's near impossible. I've been there. So can we have a motion for one or the other?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we grant a 2-year extension for the project located at 61 Belzneck Road, map 18, parcel K6.
We have a second? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 3. Brad?
Nay.
Nay. Alan?
Two years?
Yeah.
Okay. Aye.
Motion passes 4 to 1. Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 4 sets of minutes that we have pending from prior meetings. However, I am going to postpone those until later on, perhaps the next meeting, and move on to the discussion and possible vote. If someone wants to step outside and they can let the people in the hallway know that we're next going to discuss the citizen petition to ban hunting in the Belzneck Conservation Area. Thank you.
Carol? Yes. It's your time to present.
We've got a lot of people that are still coming in, I think.
Yeah, please come on in. You can fill in the sides.
Let me take a few
People
minutes.
can come on
before
over
you
here too if they
start,
want.
If you would, Carol.
Jeez.
Yeah, feel free. Come on over here so everybody can fit. Johnny.
What do you got, room?
Hi.
Everyone make it in?
I didn't know we were this popular. There's actually some behind the screen if we want to put another row in front of these gentlemen here. We can do that too.
Has everyone gotten in? Everyone left outside? All set? Okay. Good, well, welcome everyone. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, it's probably the largest turnout I've seen in close to 6 years that I've been on the commission here. And I want to thank everyone for coming and being willing to express their concerns, comments, and thoughts on this. That being said, I do want to set some expectations. I don't plan to ask for a vote from the commission tonight on this issue. This is the first public forum that we've had on this, and I don't think it's an adequate amount of time. So if a vote is to happen, it will be at some point in the future after we've had more public hearings on this. Also, the ultimate decision on this may be deferred to the town meeting in May, so nothing will be decided tonight, one way or the other. We have asked town council for their input on the legality and form of the proposal, and just received it this afternoon. So with that, it raises the legal opinion that we received, probably raises as many questions as it attempts to answer. And until we receive some clarification on how we should be interpreting it, it'd be inappropriate, again, for us to entertain any sort of a motion. That being said, I expect there'll be a significant amount of attention to this issue, and will hopefully encourage more input at future meetings that we plan to have on this. As a result, and in the interest of time and to be fair to everyone, I would ask that anyone that wants to make comments tonight limit those comments to between 1 and 2 minutes. And then if you would like to comment, please step to the podium. You have to state your name and feel free to make your comments. And I also would ask that once we have comments from a person, if you have something further to add to those comments, feel free to make it. But if your comments pretty much mirror the ones that are already been made, feel free to say you endorse them, but please don't repeat them again. That way we can get this moving along. So once all the attendees have had an opportunity to express their thoughts, we'll close this portion of the meeting. And to begin with, I would ask that the proponent for this issue provide us an overview and her comments, and then we'll move on to the public comments.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before we start the public comments, I just would like to ask, will we be also accepting written comments from anybody who doesn't have an opportunity to speak tonight or at any other public hearing?
We have received some already.
Yep.
And obviously anyone who would like to submit additional written comments is welcome to do so.
To me, I'm Amy, Conservation Administrator. You can find my email on the town website. Under the Conservation Department page, I'm collecting all comments and I get them to the commissioners.
The ones that we've received already, have those been posted onto any sort of a public access?
Not yet, no,
Okay.
because most of them we actually got like today.
Okay, but they will be at some point in the future, right?
We can make those public, yes.
Good. With that, we're open,
Here
we'll
we
open the
go.
discussion.
I would first like to state that I have lived in Harwich for 48 years.
Could we have your name, please?
Carol Kusha Stone. I'm the lady that put this thought forward.
Okay,
I
thank
live
you.
in West Harwich.
Thank you.
My husband was on the Trails Committee for 10 years. After a quadruple bypass, he was told to walk every day, and he explained to me he hated walking. But if he could buy a yellow lab puppy that was for sale right down on Smith Street, he would walk every day, and he did. That was in 2008. When he got tired, there were no benches in Belzneck, so he decided to build a bench in order to rest and catch his breath. He built 3 benches for walkers to enjoy the scenic view. Belzneck is incredibly beautiful. He took numerous pictures of the marshes, the trails, and the wildlife that lived there. He walked the trails in winter as well as in the spring, summer, and fall with his dog Plato. He gave out zillions of dog biscuits to other dog owners. Every dog knew him as well as what pocket the biscuits were kept in. He also picked up trash, including a zillion fireball nips, which inconsiderate people would toss on the trails and out their car windows. He would let the Conservation Department know when trees were blocking the paths, and he helped the AmeriCorps people in cutting them down. He also got really upset when hunters would kill deer, skin them, leaving the dead animals' remains. That's why we tried to outlaw hunting in 2015. I heard the story of a doe being killed, and then her 2 babies. The babies were skinned and their remains were left. This is not what you want a child or grandchild to see. I am repulsed. Since I lost my husband on June 22nd, 2021, I decided to again try to outlaw hunting in his memory. He cared for the land and the birds and wildlife which inhabited the land. I have filed a public records request with the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to find out how many incidents of animal cruelty have occurred in Belzneck. If hunters are this cruel and don't follow the rules of removing their prey, they should not be allowed to hunt in Belzneck. With COVID the last 2 years, Belzneck has become more popular than ever. Locals and tourists enjoy the walking trails, the bike trails, and the beautiful terrain. Artists paint there, and even yoga classes are practiced there. It's a beautiful resource for Harwich. It should be treasured and protected for the jewel that it is. And if Brewster can outlaw hunting on 800 acres in Punkhorn, which Harwich connects to, then we should be able to protect less than 300 acres.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
One further thing. I also have 42 letters I'd like to present.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll make these available to everybody.
Okay, good, thank you. So we'll open the hearing to public comment. If anyone would like to step up to the podium and state your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Mike Abdow, and I live in town. Commercial fisherman in Chatham. Hunter, fisherman, 50-plus years. We all understand what's going on here now. But from 1620 all the way to 2010, there was never any issue. It's almost 500 years. Now we're having issues. Mashpee tried to shut hunting down. A couple, 3-4 weeks ago, they had a meeting. Chatham just had one 2 days ago. I was at that one. At this town meeting 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, it came up again about Belzneck. I was one of the few that was there that spoke up. Nothing had happened, and everything was fine. I understand people like to walk their animals, and I understand that people like to bring their dogs and walk on the beach. But we have rights too. Because of COVID, this place has changed. People have now retired and moved here. Their 401s got nice and fat again since 2008 when they couldn't come. They bought up all the houses that are here. They're building on every little tiny piece of land they can build. The hunters, not so much the fishermen, but the hunters are being squeezed into tighter and tighter areas. Don't want to have conflicts. 99% of the hunters I know are conservation minded. Without the deer, I'm using deer, ducks as an example. Without them, there is no us. Same thing in the fishing industry. Since the industry collapsed, there's very few fishermen left here. I'm one of the last. But we have rights like everybody else, and we have no issue with people walking. And in the 57, 8, 9 years I've been hunting, I have never seen a person drink a nip carrying a shotgun. Not saying it doesn't happen, but 99% of the people I run across don't do that. Most of that might be from fishermen who hang out on the bank, drink, go down and park in that area. That little stumpy pond that I used to fish there in 1964. Always see a bunch of guys there fishing. Always see some beer cans laying on the side of the road. I don't think it's the hunters. I hope it's not the hunters. Because as far as we're concerned, we're getting squeezed in so tight that anytime there's any type of an infraction, it puts a bad mark on us. I am a professional. I'm not a part-time fisherman. It's what I do for a living, 365 days a year. Now I charter out of Chatham. I also run duck charters out of Chatham, just a handful for my clients. But these people here, sustenance is a big deal now. Lots of people out of work. Nobody can get jobs filled. Lots of I'm hiring signs everywhere. Most people who shoot deer take them home and eat them. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm sure it does. There's a lot of things that happen that shouldn't be happening, but I can't police everything. And the old saying, police your own to keep it running straight. Most of the guys I run across in the woods hunt. The duck hunting, big issue now in Chatham with the people. Think about it. Ask your police officers how many people have been shot in Harwich in the last 50 years. 2, 3. The stuff we use now by federal standards does not have the velocity and the knockdown power when you when you're duck hunting. Turkey hunting is a little bit different because it's mostly on the ground, but most guys are not shooting towards houses. Most guys are shooting over open water. And I've had people, I've listened to them. People have a chance to embellish, they do. The pellets hit my house. Well, I'll stand 150 feet away and have you shoot steel shot at me. It won't reach me because it has no weight behind it. This is a federal mandate. We have to use that. When we're deer hunting, it's a little bit different. Most of the guys I know like to hunt bow. Quiet, peaceful, shots are only 30, 40 yards, doesn't interfere with people. This problem. The problem now is we have a lot of people here, and you're going to have conflicts. Some people, as we all know, hunting is on the way out because people don't like it.
I have to ask you to...
I'm sorry, I apologize, but I wanted to make you understand that the guys who hunt here, really, most of them do it for, I don't know, one guy said, yeah, I just shot this big buck, cut his head off and left the body in the, I would have said, tell me where the body is, I'll go get it. Because we eat the meat better than eating steroid-raised farm animals.
Okay, great.
I'm out.
Okay.
All yours.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
My name is Darryl Ruthie. I'm a third-generation Harwich resident. I lived here for 48 years as well. And I just wanted to touch base on some of the problems that can occur with the overpopulation of deer. From my understanding, we're at a pretty perfect population, around 15 to 18 per square mile, with exception of the areas where you're not allowed to hunt, like the Punkhorn, which is excess of 30. There's scientific evidence, not opinion, that is detrimental to the herd. If you drive around, look around, the passing of Jimmy Marceline, a lot of his land's being sold, converted to housing. We don't know what's going to happen with the junkyard. Bill Marsh has taken over, and he's building every strip behind the charter school. We've lost, I bet you, 100 acres minimum to development in just the last 6 or 8 months. The deer are going to go where they're safe. And there's a lot of ecological things that can occur in that case. And I just wanted to touch base a little bit on the effects of a large deer population and what it does to other species and the health of the herd. There's increased forage damage, and the forage height is basically the height a deer can eat. They eat primarily acorns, buds. They don't really eat a lot of grass. They eat grass for the same reasons that dogs do for roughage. Once the first frost comes, the grass becomes non-nutritious. They don't eat it anymore. We have a very low winter kill rate on the Cape because the snow doesn't hang around. In Maine and New Hampshire, they lose a good portion of the herd every time there's a harsh winter. That's why in most parts of Maine, you're only allowed to shoot one deer, period. When there's a large population of deer, there's a decrease in size. If any of you have ever driven down to Florida, you go through Pennsylvania, you're going to see about 40 deer about this big. You might see a couple of good bucks, maybe 1 out of 50. Tick-borne illness is not going to decrease, obviously. We got babesiosis, Rocky Mountain fever, Lyme's disease. The Lone Star tick is making its way into Narragansett Bay and the Cape. That can pass some really nasty diseases. You got degradation of plant species, endangered and common plants. Degradation of nesting material. We have a lot of ground birds on the Cape that nest in shrubs, and when the deer run out of acorns and things that eat on the ground, they're going to start eating the bushes, which is going to affect the nesting of those animals. Decrease in rabbits, because the rabbits are not going to be able to reach on the forage line because the deer eat everything. Exponential population growth. Eastern Massachusetts has the oldest deer in the country, and that's scientifically proven. That's not opinion. You can Google any of this, and I can give anybody references if they want. A doe can live 20 years in Massachusetts. That's unheard of. And does start producing typically when they're 18 months old, which is usually 1 year and a half after they're born. They start off with 1. By the time they're 3 or 4, they have 2, and then upwards of 3. And there's no evidence that shows that does are ever sterile. So about 1 in 3 fawns will reach mating age. So if a doe has 60 offspring in a 20-year life, 20 of those deer are gonna. And basically, it's about a 2.5 to 1 ratio in does to bucks in Massachusetts. That's why they allow doe tags. Chronic wasting disease, thank God, hasn't reached Massachusetts yet. But chronic wasting disease only occurs in areas that have 35 to 40 deer per square mile, which we're on our way to quickly. And closing the areas to hunt, I would say 5 or 6 years would be at that number. And the carbon footprint, believe it or not, if you want to get into the greenhouse effect and global warming, cows produce more methane gas and more greenhouse gases than all the cars on the planet. They did a study in India because the Hindus don't eat cows, but they do drink milk. There's more carbon emissions from the methane gas from the cow manure in India than all of the cars in the United States.
Ask you to wrap it up if you would, please.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, COVID-19. This is the last one. And I'm going to cite the reference so you guys can all look this up. WANE.com, which is Channel 15 in Wyoming, did a study in December 2020 that showed that deer carry all of the mutations of COVID. It doesn't seem to harm them, but they pass it to each other, and they're not vaccinated. So these deer are going to, and you can look this up. This is a scientific study. So basically what they're afraid of is that too many deer, the COVID is just going to keep going in the cycle of life. And they're ruminants, so their metabolism, their biology is completely different than us. They're in a completely different family. And what happens is if these mutate to something that doesn't kill the ruminants but kills humans, we're in big trouble.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Suzanne Hoy. I live on Belzneck Road in Harwich. This is a really emotional issue for everybody. There are a lot of pro-hunters here. There are a lot of anti-hunters here. I would like to ask the Commission to look at this as a public safety issue, not a wildlife issue, not a my rights issue. I looked at the hunting regulations online today to see what the hunting seasons were in Massachusetts. We are Zone 12, Cape Cod, and if you look carefully, there are 55 days of the year where you cannot hunt on Cape Cod. So from April 10th to April 24th and May 22nd to June 30th, you can't hunt. Any other time of the year you can hunt for squirrel, fox, different things. I realize that deer is the primary target for people. Belzneck Conservation Area has gotten exceedingly busy. With the pandemic, it used to be I could walk around the reservoir and see maybe 3 people. We went for a walk yesterday morning at 9:30 in the morning, went down Belzneck, went around Smith Street, back around. In 45 minutes, we saw 20 people walking. So having hunting in that area is really, really a public safety issue, and it should be outlawed. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a gentleman over here that was.
Good evening. Dean Knight. I live in Harwich as well. The issue of hunting seems to come up every 5 years or so. It came up when I was chairman and sitting in Mr. Crabtree's seat up there when I was chairman of the Conservation Commission. My term ended almost a decade ago. Ultimately, and I'd be happy to take a look at the legal opinion, ultimately it's up to the Conservation Commission on how conservation lands under their control are managed. And I think there are a few points the Commission should consider. First, the people of Harwich have many interests: boating, fishing, clamming, golf, biking, walking, going to the beach. And I think people should try to respect that diversity. The town is very fortunate to have had the foresight and the resources to prevent the development of Belzneck. And many people who donated land and money did so with the understanding that there was no restriction on hunting. This generosity, I think, should be respected as well. Additionally, Harwich has a long tradition of hunting. If you visit Belzneck or Brooks Museum, you can find a picture of Babe Ruth hunting in Belzneck. I found that to be pretty amazing. Additionally, you go across the street and you see the Elmer Kroll Decoy Museum. So hunting in this area has been around for generations, hundreds of years. Additionally, Harwich has hundreds of acres that are preserved land that have hunting which is prohibited. You've got 57 acres at Thompson's Field that hunting is no longer allowed, as well as the 600 acres held by the Harwich Conservation Trust. There's plenty of space to visit if you want to avoid hunters. And I have to disagree with the last point. The hunting season that, primarily most of the people here are participating in, the deer season or the duck season, really isn't that long. Additionally, there's no hunting on Sundays. And another point that I think gets overlooked is sportsmen, through their excise tax, which is paid on firearms, ammunition, archery equipment, have contributed billions of dollars to conservation since the Pittman-Robertson Act was enacted in 1937. With COVID and a lot more outdoor activity, $1.1 billion was collected in excise tax in the United States in 2021 alone. All of that money goes to outdoor opportunities and conservation for everyone to enjoy. I would encourage the Conservation Commission to take these points into consideration and to make it better known when hunting season is open and how residents can make it safer. I see people walking down my street in my neighborhood, 4 people across, walking down on the wrong side of the street. If that kind of oblivious behavior is happening on our roads, I'm sure some people are entering the woods equally oblivious. Post the dates of the hunting season, encourage or make mandatory wearing hunter orange, and then everybody should be able to enjoy Harwich's resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
May I speak online?
We'll get to the online speakers in a bit after most of the ones here in person have had a chance to talk.
My name is Steve Churchill. I live at 17 Shore Drive in the Harwich side of Punkhorn. When I was a kid, I grew up hunting the Punkhorn. We had a mash tent there in the 50s. And I hunted all over the Punkhorn, and now, because of Brewster's closing it all, you can only hunt the Harwich side. And now they want to close the Belzneck Road, which I also grew up hunting, crabbing, and fishing in. And it's just not right. That land is for everybody. And it should be kept open for everybody. The hunters only get 4 months, approximately 4 months from October to January to hunt. Now, if people are concerned about safety, you got Thompson's Field where you can't hunt, and you got the Punkhorn, which is 800 acres, way more than the 272 acres at Belzneck. So if they're concerned, they can move somewhere else just for a couple of months. That's all we ask. We give them the rest of the year. They can wear hunter's orange in there would help, put it on their pets. That's recommended by the state. I got information from the state today. And as far as accidents, there's been 3 shooting accidents on non-hunters in the last 40 years in the state of Massachusetts. So that's not an issue. We can't be making up stuff like we're drinking booze out there and stuff like that, blaming the hunters. I go to Crab Bridge 2 or 3 days a week, and I pick up trash, and the hunting season's closed. So I pick up rubbish from McDonald's, Subs, coffee cups, and if you know where the Crab Bridge is, there's a pail between me and you, and they don't use it. It's just people are stupid. So I just don't understand why we got to close hunting when that's what we enjoy doing. We spend a lot more money than these bird watchers. I don't have a problem with anybody, but that owl did in Dennis that died because they harassed them so much with 3-foot camera lenses that it starved to death. So I don't have a problem with anybody using it, but it should be for everybody. This is America. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in the audience?
Hi, I'm Annie Haven. I live in Harwich. I'll be very quick. There's a reason why the word buck is synonymous with the word dollar, because when it comes to when my dad gives me fresh duck, fresh goose, fresh venison, and I've had those 3 things from Belzneck through my dad, I get really excited because it's nutritious, organic, grass-fed, local meat, and I can feed my family with it, and it saves on my grocery bill. So I greatly appreciate that. I also know that the hunters that hunt in groups share what they have. They bring it to older people that they work with, older people that can't get out anymore. So one deer can feed many, many people. And it's shared out through the community, and I know that that happens because my dad's part of a group that does that, and there may be some people here that hunt with him. So I do not want to see the places that I grew up eating the meat from disappear for my kids. That is not the way that we should be proceeding. We should be protecting the way that we have instead of changing the way that we have because of irresponsible people. I'm very sad that that happened with the deer that you described. Someone, if they had known, I will give you my card. If that happens again and you see someone doing that, call probably half the people in this room and they will come and do something with that deer. That is an absolute waste, and I think that most of the people here can agree with that. That was a very terrible intention, and I'm sorry that that happened, but I don't think that it should end hunting in the area for all of the people that hunt there and eat what they hunt and behave responsibly. I don't want one incident to ruin it for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Steve Noyes. I live here in Harwich. The problem I have is you alluded to a legal interpretation of the article. The problem that I have, it says, to see if the town will vote to prohibit hunting in Belzneck's conservation area. The next sentence says the properties included in this prohibition would be as follows. All parcels under the care and custody of the Harwich Conservation Commission. And then it's followed by they comprise approximately 272 acres. The second sentence that I read that would include all conservation area in the town of Harwich, that you would prohibit hunting from that. And I think that is wrong on that. And as it was stated before, you know, one lead is not used anymore. And I think that should be taken into consideration. That sentence of all parcels would be under the care and custody, and that just isn't right. I think hunting should be allowed in town as by right, as a contract that you folks had signed back for 2011. The hunting was one of the first things that was mentioned by the people that looked over what Belzneck had to offer. It's 272 acres. How often do you run into another hunter? If trash is a problem in there, and I'm being facetious, then you should ban hiking because they leave trash and that's a mess and people could stand on glass and stuff like that. I'm being facetious. But you can't control everything and you can't control everyone. But hunters that I know are very, very responsible people. And as the woman before me said, they abhor any kind of conditions wherein remains are left. They eat what they hunt. This is what they do and they give it away. And I just don't think that hunting should be prohibited in Belzneck. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a couple comments that, because you brought up the legal opinion, and the warrant article, I wanted to, it's not exactly clear yet, and we do have a legal opinion, but I and the commission have many follow-up questions to said legal opinion. We'll be happy to release that once we have some more clarity. But one of the questions, just so the audience knows, the questions that we had were, one, is it the responsibility of town meeting, or is it the responsibility of the Conservation Commission? Like, can a citizen petition go to town meeting to ban the hunting here? The opinion we got was that it would have to be brought forth by the Conservation Commission to town meeting, not by a petitioner. A second question that I had that has not yet been answered, and I'm sure there's other questions, is as you can see on the screen, the individual parcels that this ban would be proposed to ban hunting in. Each of those parcels, separate parcel, separate deed, separate way of acquisition. Some is eminent domain, was taken by the town by eminent domain. Some was taken by sale for a good chunk of money, and then that money came from community preservation funds and possibly other funds. So the other question that we have that we are trying to find answer to is the means in which these parcels were acquired, the money that was used, things like that. Does that have any impact on whether hunting can or cannot be banned here? So, as the Chairman Crabtree said, we're going to have more discussion on this because we need some more clarity. But I want to let you folks know that those are the questions that we have asked. That's all I would think.
Okay.
I have one quick question. One thing you didn't say about is this you're talking about different parcels to close. He asked about, is this all Harwich Conservation Land?
Yeah, in the future, please everybody go up to the microphone. We have our mics here, so people who are online, because if you're not on a mic, people online who can't hear you, just, I'll reiterate it. I'll reiterate your question. So the question for anybody online was, I'm pointing out to the parcels specifically in the Belzneck. The article as written seems to allude it's for the whole town. We can work to clarify that. To my knowledge, and Carol Kutcher-Stone can clarify too, that the petition article is just for the parcels in the Belzneck. And Carol's saying yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Clayton, and I live in Harwich. I am probably the only person in this room who is a 30-year veteran of conservation law enforcement in this area. In my work life, I actually oversee the environmental police officers from Plymouth to the Rhode Island border, Cape Cod Islands. And a number of these people who hunt in this room know me by name or reputation. That said, you have a difficult position, and I encourage you to make any FOIA requests or formal requests of Mass Wildlife. I know that Chatham has done that, and I believe we may have had an officer or two at that meeting. I also urge you to make sure that you parse the definition of animal cruelty against whatever hunting may be. My opinion of the ban is not one that I'm going to disclose or discuss here because of my role. I don't want that to be blurred. But please do your due diligence to make sure we preserve the rights of all people and the safety of all people. Because diversity and inclusion isn't just for race, ethnicity, sexual orientation. It includes recreational use as well. And I'll leave you with this story I heard that the definition of conflict is the presence of two people on the same continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you. All right. Anyone else here? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Patrick Donnelly. I'm from Harwich, and I just wanted to address quickly the public safety aspect. With one, pretty much anyone that has a firearms license in Massachusetts has had to go through a gun safety course. Part of going through a gun safety course is going through the 10 points of gun safety. 2 of those being know what is beyond your target. So if you're shooting and you don't know what's beyond your target, you're at fault as a hunter. And I'm pretty sure everyone here that is a hunter would know that. And the other point I have was with birdshot. At 30 yards, birdshot velocity is for pellet is 1.56 foot-pounds. And to penetrate human skin, it requires 2.2 foot-pounds. So past 60 yards, which is well beyond, well within sight, so anyone can see what's in 60 yards of you, you're not going to be able to hurt someone at max range of birdshot. So there was some previous complaints about shooting over open water. These pellets might hurt someone out in the distance on a missed shot. That's very unlikely. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here in the room? Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. Glenn Hawthorne, resident of Harwich. I'm just curious, do any of the board members hunt?
Well, I was going to say, I don't.
I do.
Feel free to volunteer, but.
So 2 of you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't, to answer your question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. Excuse me, John Ebel on Chatham Road. I've had a hunting license in Massachusetts since I was 15. I'm 67. I've never been afraid of my safety in hunting, and I am a master registered Maine guide. I've hunted around the country, and it's a very dear topic. My question tonight is, to my knowledge and in the research I've done, there has never been a hunting-related injury at Belzneck. Never. Okay? Never in recorded history. And we're discussing tonight a ban on a recreational activity for the purposes of safety that has never resulted in an injury in recorded history. That's amazing. If you look at the injury, there's research done by the Injury Journal, an independent industry organization. One of its findings was that there are 9 firearms-related injuries in every 1 million hunter days. 9 in 1 million hunter days. And those are mostly self-inflicted or hunter on hunter within the same party. 9 in 1 million hunter days. Never on Belzneck. There are also, under the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Public Trust Doctrine, colonial ordinance, no rights to the water have ever been given or have always been kept in trust by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, rights to intertidal waters. In addition to the low water mark, all right, rights have been put in trust by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to preserve navigation, including all activities related to navigation, including the launching of vessels and loading of vessels, fowling, waterfowl or the hunting of birds, okay, and fishing. That's our birthright. So any intertidal waters in that area are not under the jurisdiction of anybody in this room. They are put in trust by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the idea that somehow we can restrict that because of noise or because of concerns for safety is ridiculous. All right, is absolutely ridiculous. Now, that may not pertain to these lands that you have, but all of those intertidal waters, anywhere where those waters reach, those waters are not within the jurisdiction of this town. They're in the trust, and they were put in trust by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And finally, I have a dog. We walk a lot. The only safety concern I have ever had in Harwich was being attacked by other dogs. And I was threatened by battery by a dog owner. In 50-something years of hunting, it has never happened to me. There are 44 miles of rail trails for dog walking. Nickerson, with dogs allowed on a leash, 1,900 acres. 4,300 acres of the Cape Cod National Seashore, including the beaches between or after Labor Day until Memorial Day, are open to dogs. Punkhorn Parklands, 800 acres. Thompson's Field.
Not to interrupt you, but this isn't a dog issue necessarily.
This is not what?
A dog issue.
Well, it's people are walking their dogs. And it will become a dog issue because I'll tell you what. How many tons of untreated dog feces are washing into the waterways of Dog's Neck because of the overuse?
That's not the topic.
Okay, so the topic is banning hunting because of safety. There are a lot of places on Cape Cod to walk your dog safely. If you feel threatened, all right? I don't understand where this is coming from. There's 560 miles of coastline on Cape Cod alone. A very small percentage of that is conducive to waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. The rest of it is open to walk your dog at liberty. I have done it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Am I able to participate online?
Yeah, you may want to open up online. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Michael.
We have someone speaking.
Chairman, members of the commission, Amy, thank you for the opportunity. Michael McCaskill, resident. Just clarification for the crowd. Amy, when you talked about legal opinions, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. We did all receive a legal opinion. The crowd hasn't been able to read it yet. But tonight's topic is for a petition article. It's not an agenda item for the Conservation Commission, or is it, or an initiative of the Conservation Commission to ban hunting in Belzneck, correct?
Correct. This was brought to us as a citizen petition.
Right. So the crowd knows this is going to town meeting no matter how they vote. So town meeting is the place that this will be debated. Whether the Conservation Commission supports it or not is part of tonight's process along with the next meetings. But they don't have a choice whether to bring this to town meeting or not. It's going to town meeting. The legal opinions that you're talking about are specific to whether or not the petitioner can instruct the town to ban hunting in Belzneck, correct? Is that your understanding?
That, again, we got it last minute, so that's my understanding, but I do want some clarification from council on that.
But as of this moment, the Conservation Commission does not have an initiative to ban hunting in Belzneck.
This is not our initiative.
Thank you. That's all. Just to clarify.
Clarification. Yep. All right, let's take one more comment, and then I'll open it up to people on the phone. Carol, did you have one more thing you wanted to add?
One other point that I know has been addressed by a lot of people to me is the acoustics in West Harwich. I am so tired of being awoken at 4:30 in the morning because some idiot is out there.
Let her finish, please.
Well, when I look at my cell phone, it's 4:30 in the morning when people are starting to hunt. Also, just this past, not this Sunday, the previous Sunday, there were gunshots in Belzneck. Where that's from, I don't know if there's no hunting on Sunday. So the real nuisance to people that live there. You live in Harwichport, you don't hear this. But because it's so flat and marshland, we hear everything. That's it.
Thank you. I said that was the last one for this room. Let's take a couple on the phone if we may, please. Can we open that up? Please introduce yourself and you have 1 to 2 minutes for your comments.
Please unmute himself. You need to unmute yourself, sir.
Star 6. Can't hear you yet.
No, if he's not on, star 6 is only.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. That's fine.
Sebastian Mudry, 54 Smith Street. I have a shell driveway. I take my bicycle, a mountain bike, and I make the first right
Excuse me, can you?
onto Belzneck Road. I do it to exercise, to work my heart. I can't walk like I used to hike because I have 2 titanium hips. And I want to reinforce the idea of the speaker, the woman who just said being awakened before dawn, because for 4 months of the year, I get up before dawn to the sound of gunshots. Not only shotguns, auto-fed, bam, 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 but also rifle shots. Yes, pellets don't travel as far. A bullet travels for over a mile. A .22 can travel over a mile. A .30 can do damage a mile away, can kill someone a mile away. I don't feel safe on my bicycle from October to January on a good day when I would like to exercise outside on my bike on Belzneck Road. I have heard from a friend who was
$1 million in bike trails.
I am on Belzneck Road. I like the dirt road. And I would like to go into the woods, go over the Crab Bridge, and come back on North Road. But that area is so densely packed with hunters that I am not safe to do so. I have seen diving ducks disappear from the bend on North Road and Smith Street. There used to be mergansers, there used to be buffleheads. Where have these gone? Are they being shot for sport? I've got a sportsman's license. I would not hunt in my backyard. My property abuts onto Belzneck Conservation Area. I can hear those guns constantly. And I like to sleep in. I'm a retired teacher, but I'm awakened for 4 months out of the year. And this year, last year has been the worst. I ask you please to consider, we have a regulation about noise intrusion 150 feet, and yet I have to hear this virtually every morning, not Sundays. This is my alarm clock. And don't tell me to move, sir. Don't tell me to move for those 4 months a year. I cannot afford to move. I am retired. I'm on a pension. I have been living here for near 15 years, and I have a right to peace and quiet and to see the wildlife and to enjoy a safe bike ride and not to think about being shot.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to have to ask
Thank
you
you.
to wrap it up. Okay, thank you. And let me ask people in the audience, please don't talk while someone else is trying to present their opinions. It's just disrespectful for them. Thank you. Something very quick?
Gotta go to the mic.
At 4:30 in the morning, could you see a bird? Could you see a deer? Common sense. No, you can't. It's dark.
Identify yourself, please.
Robert Brothers. I went to school with some of you guys. At 4:30 in the morning, you're not seeing a deer, you're not seeing a duck, you're not hunting. All right? And no one's using 30-30s. You're using either a shotgun or you're using a bow and arrow. And you're definitely not hearing a bow and arrow on a Sunday because no one can hunt on Sundays. That's my point. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Alan? Yeah.
Can I recuse myself from
I'd like to say something. I've been listening to this,
Voting tonight anyway.
and there's not a whole lot I can add other than I'd like to just throw my support behind the hunters right now. I'll probably have a whole lot more to say as time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Luscola, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan, go ahead. Yep. Remember your minute.
Okay, I'll try to do a minute.
I'm recusing myself for whatever this purpose may be. However, talk about passion. I know a lot of the folks in this room here. I've hunted with a lot of folks in this room. If we can go back to the screen with a map, please. Well, first of all, I'm Allen Hall, North Harwich. I grew up right there at 453 Depot Street. I currently live at 473 Depot Street. My family owns that piece of land to the northwest there that's still private property. My grandfather owned the whole property in 1957, all the reservoir. Little history lesson, that reservoir was built in 1929 for the cranberry bogs in that area. Talk about passion. Some of the reasons why I got on this board was to reflect on the heritage that I grew up in Harwich. Cranberry bogs, the folks that live here, the community, and the fact, I'm sorry, my grandfather owned that. My father signed a deed for the last purchase, parcel 36T4 along the reservoir next to our bog. In a winter storm of 2016, Attorney Bill Crow came to our living room. My grandfather left it to my father. My father said, I'm selling this and I want to continue hunting there as I did as a kid. I hope there's no restrictions. That was in my parents' house at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon with Attorney Kroll in the dark because they lost power because of the snowstorm. I thought that was pretty cool. Here we are, Harwich people, doing the right thing so that Harwich people in the future and from the past can enjoy that area, be it walking, motorcycles, hunting, bird watching, whatever it may be. A lot of things have changed in this country, but that shouldn't. My grandfather sold it to Ralph Guida. Ralph Guida was a big developer in the time in the 1960s. He threatened the town with 400 or 500 houses there. The town started the conservation by purchasing that. I reflect on forefathers, Marshall Sieberman, Mr. Roland Bassett, Balfour Bassett, Mac Reed in Orleans. All these folks that I grew up with in the Brewster Sportsman's Club, the Cape Cod Fish and Game Club. We can't continue to erode our history. Everybody in this room has passion for something, and I respect everybody's opinion. But that's my passion, and I hope we continue.
Okay, thank you. Can we open up the phone? Is someone on the phone who would like to make a comment?
Yeah, internet. Anybody else online want to make a comment?
All right, I'll open it up to the room again if there's anyone else here that would like to speak.
Yeah, hi, John Ebel. Just around the conversation around noise, firearms noise does cover quite a distance. I live on Chatham Road. I can hear the police range over on Depot Road. I don't complain about it. Other people shoot there. I don't complain about that. I can hear waterfowl hunters down at Red River. It's not a problem for me. I can hear when the commercial fleet is in the harbor, Saquatucket and the harbor next door. I live close enough. I can hear the diesel engines at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't have a problem with that. Hunting for everything except, I believe, raccoon and possum starts 1/2 hour before sunrise, except on wildlife management areas, which we do not have, which are stocked with pheasant. 1/2 hour before sunrise. And it ends 1/2 hour after sunrise, except waterfowl, which ends at, sunset, which ends at sunset. The other ones are open 24 hours. The raccoon and possum 24 hours a day, but limited to 22 long rifles and pistols and 38 caliber pistols, which, with all due respect, sound like popcorn or less. If you have your windows closed, you can't hear them. Okay, so on October 15th, which is just about the time that hunting season opens, Sunrise is slightly before 7 o'clock because I go hunting in Falmouth at that time, which is sunrise on a WMA. And I can tell you that the hunting for that day opens at 6:30 elsewhere. And I can also tell you that at 5:30, where I read someone heard gunshots, an hour and a half before sunrise, there's somebody shooting at the unseeable. And that is not hunting. They're shooting at the unseeable. All right? And it just seems to me that there's a bit of fabrication occurring here because hunters do not shoot at the unseeable. It doesn't make sense for them. They're hunting. All right? So I don't know where these shots are coming from. I don't know that they are shots. I've heard the tailgates of large construction trucks in my neighborhood close and made me jump because I thought, wow, that was quite a loud gunshot, but it wasn't. I've also heard construction people who are shooting 22 blanks through their rivet guns or whatever it is that they use. I'm sure some of you are more familiar with them than I am, that sound like rat-a-tat-tat-tat, and I hear that as they put up deck after deck after deck and build and build and build on the lands of Cape Cod. But I can assure you that there are no hunters shooting at the unseeable. So let's not be ridiculous.
Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Donna Tavano. I've lived in Harwich for almost 50 years. Years ago, our first neighborhood was Herring Road in North Harwich. And I know that houses that are bordering the bike path, now the railroad trail, I don't know what kind of ammunition, spray from whatever, but the backs of most of those houses were peppered with some kind of marks from pellets or whatever over the years. And we lived there for 10 years. We also lived for 10 years on Great Western Road near Lothrop. And I'm sorry that it's not fabricated, that we heard many times on Sundays and too early, before sunrise, when the unseeable is there, that there were shots, and they were shots from some sort of hunting guns in the areas. So I know that those things were real, they're not fabricated. I also know that every hunter, I'm sure none of you're all perfect hunters and you follow the rules, but there are guys out there, and women probably, Amy can attest to this, about 5 or 6 years ago, they were erected, I guess, duck blinds down in Belzneck that were made with 2x4s and power saws, and the highway department on occasion has to tear these things down. Not only are those conservation violations, but come on, and then there's, I guess, shell casings and things that aren't picked up. Again, none of you guys, I'm sure. So I will also say that we keep talking about, well, since 1620 or whatever, people have done, the hunting and the passion. And, well, years ago we banned it at Thompson's Field finally because of the walkers and the bike path and the huge. I don't even walk at Thompson's Field anymore. When I started walking there 40-something years ago, it was wonderful. I was by myself and my dog. There was no one there. Now I don't go there at all. Then I walked Belzneck for years and years. Now I'm old. I have no more dogs, so I don't tend to go there very much. But when I do go, there's a lot. On the rarest, I know all the trails way in the back where nobody knows. And I find there's these strange people there, whatever. So it is well frequented. There are Audubon type walks, conservation walks, bird walks there constantly. And so what I'm saying is we've also mentioned that how many people have moved here, rightly or wrongly, because of COVID or not, they're here. They're here to stay. Unfortunately, I miss Bradley's. I miss Benny's. I miss my old dial-up phone. I miss all of these things that are becoming a thing of the past. And I'm sorry to say, I think on Cape Cod, hunting because of what's happened to this place, and we all regret it, it's got to become for public safety a thing of the past. And one question that I hope someone can answer, how many, is there a registration for deers taken and killed? Is there some sort of number that we can get eventually on how many deer are taken from that area every year? And maybe we could follow up on that. Thank you.
We can look into that, yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Michael London, I'm from Harwich. I would just like to point out to anyone who happens to hear these gunshots at 4:35, before sunset, well after sunset. If someone's doing something illegal, please make the phone call. Try and get a number for the EPOs. Obviously we all have the police department. Stop them. It's a phone call. Get it done. If there's actually someone out there stupid enough to be hunting 2 hours before sunrise, they absolutely deserve to be arrested. So please make that happen if that's really happening.
Quickly add with that, I had made calls many years ago. I worked for the police department for 23 years. People made calls. There's no way that you're going to get anyone to respond and find these people. It sounds like a great idea. In reality, it isn't. You can't find them.
William Holland, Harwich. I'd just like to bring up a fact about safety. As a hunter, we as hunters have to take a hunter safety course. And also the gentleman had brought up that we have to take a license to carry course to have a firearm. So we are educated on the safety of hunting. And we have more to lose as hunters out there if we don't follow the safety protocol from our hunting licenses or license to carry. You know, it's something that education is needed, education throughout the town with the walkers, post-ins, orange. You look at Martha's Vineyard, for example, all the land trust land is available to hunt with permission. They give out permission to hunt it. Every site where you enter, every parking lot, posts the seasons to hunt, posts to where hunt orange, and they go as far on the land trust land to close the land trust for walking for the 2 weeks of shotgun season. So that's an area that they are pro-hunting, and they have a problem with too many deer and ticks, as Daryl had brought up earlier. We need to educate the other people in the town, not just the hunters.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
One more, Mike Abdow. Since we're all shooting at 4:30 in the morning, we're usually done by 9. Let the dog walkers come at 9 o'clock and on. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. All right. Yes.
My name is Lisa Godding. I live on Belzneck, but more important, I work at Personalized Fitness Solutions in Harwich on Main Street. And my job is to promote activity outside in the envelope, and I'll submit it to you, Amy. In just a week after Carol approached us living on Belzneck, I was just talking about it, and it was incredible to hear the stories of fear. There's emails and 42 signatures of people in the community that don't go to Belzneck anymore because of this fear. So I'm not sure what the compromise is. Lots of great energy from the hunters. Maybe it is more education, but clearly what's happening right now, I don't think is the solution.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
My name's Michael Hill. I live in Harwich on Pleasant Lake Ave. I currently hunt in Harwich. I have 2 small children, a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, that I actively walk over there maybe once a week, if not twice, and I never fear for their safety. The only time I don't go over there is during the shotgun season, which is 2 weeks, because it's just a better idea not to. And it's posted over there by whoever has been putting it in the,
It's my job.
So if you can read, you should know that there's 2 weeks that you probably shouldn't go over there. But I do actively bring my 7-year-old and my 2-year-old and my dogs and many other kids of friends over there, and have no worry that I'm going to get shot. So.
Okay, thank you. Someone on this side have it? Someone over here had a comment? No, you're all set? Okay, good. And are we all set on the phones, online?
Last call for any comments from the internet?
Nope.
You good? Nobody's
Hearing
lighting up
none.
green.
All right, good. Well, I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate everyone's input. It's a contentious issue for most of us, I should say. And there'll be more to come on this. As Mr. McCaskill said, you know, this is something that will be going to town meeting. Question tonight is whether or not the Conservation Commission will eventually endorse this or not, but at this point, we're unclear based on the legal opinion that we have. So there'll be more to come. And I thank everyone again. We do have to continue this meeting, so if everyone could clear the room, if you're not going to be staying.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it.
When will this come to the board again? Oh, we don't. We'll just have to schedule it. From the fishing game?
Always have. Trying a lot harder to put up more signage.
I do not know.
More signs this year.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Hey, just Scotty, how are you? What's happening? How's everything going? You gotta give me one of those hats. Yeah, it's going well. It's going real good. Oh yeah, I'll bring some over. I'm gonna try to do a trip down to Dover if you're interested. Just do it. Yeah, my son Ben wants to do it. Sure he does. I'm gonna jump track. I actually talked to Jay about getting a coach.
Yeah,
leave at like 4 a.m. drive 7 hours, go to the race.
I mean, once we get some legal advice.
I did it last year.
How we're supposed to approach this, move forward with that.
I think it's gonna be a good year. So.
Yeah. I saw you about the other day.
Oh yeah.
He was telling me.
Oh yeah, he's.
I would assume so, but I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, he was psyched. He's getting ready. Him and Mary are flying out to Vegas.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Yeah. How you guys doing?
Good. Oh, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
You should be sitting there.
I don't know how my father would feel about that, though.
Well, that's true. You got a lot of conflict going on.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll come for these things, you know.
Alan, I just want to say.
See you guys. I'll talk to you later, Scott.
That's nice to know.
History lesson. I appreciate you getting up to talk. That was really cool.
Well, I felt I had to.
Yeah.
I know. Thanks for mentioning the ancestors
Very
as
well
well.
done.
They're the ones that put it in place.
I know. I was like, last name, check. It was pretty cool. So
I know.
that was really neat that you were able to stand up and talk about that. So
I respect everybody's opinion and boy, that's why we're on here. I try to contribute to the town.
yeah, good job. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Have good seeing you. Take it easy.
Well, it's a shame too that, you know, nobody brought up all the other areas.
She's a Bassett from Chatham.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
School teacher.
Yeah.
All right, we
All
got
right.
a couple of little, I got another announcement. Basically, this is the second item on discussion.
Yep.
So, we're making a presentation to the Board of Selectmen on Monday about the warrant article changes. The warrant article has not changed for the wetlands protection bylaw changes. It has changed to the 5-year moratorium with a study for the water dependent structures article. So I will be there, assuming the chairman will be there. Brad, can you be there?
Yes.
And then anybody else who wants to attend can. If we have a quorum of members, I'd like to know so I can post it. So if you want to come.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, Amy, I would like to be there also.
Okay. So I'm just going to post it, and that way anybody can come. Okay? We will not be talking, at the time I wrote my summary to you, we were also going to be talking about the conservation, or just in general budgets. That is likely going to happen on March 10th now. So the only things we're talking about on March 7th are the warrant articles and the proposed management activities in the Robbins Pond Conservation Area, dealing with the CPC article that we got funded for a couple years ago. Took a couple of the members up there today who hadn't been up there, and showed them around a little bit. So we'll look forward to that. But I just wanted to let you know I have to provide one last thing to Danielle, or to Ellen tomorrow over in the Selectman's office for that. I think that's, I mean, if you want to do the minutes, it's actually not as late as we normally go. So if you want to do minutes now, we can.
I didn't have a chance to look at them.
We can do them next time.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm exhausted.
Can we discuss it at some point, I bet? The presentation to the Board of Selectmen on Monday,
It was going to essentially be similar to the ones you've already given, at least in terms of the PowerPoints.
Yeah.
I was going to just make the change, the change we had of the moratorium language to the slides. If you want to change anything else, let me know.
I'm not interested in changing, I just want to know.
No, I mean the presentation, but not our vote, because we're not, this isn't a public hearing for this tonight, so we can't reopen the whole discussion.
How do you envision what do you envision the presentation comprising of?
Actually, since Michael's here, do you want more of a summary from the commission, or would you like a re-presentation of everything?
Good evening again. You've already voted the change?
We have.
Summary of the change.
We have.
That's all I want, summary of the change.
You just want summary of the change?
Yeah.
Okay,
If
so
everything
what-
else
we don't
remains
need-
the same, we don't have to revisit the whole
Of
thing.
the change from the last presentation we made to the selectmen, right?
Correct.
Which is the 5-year
So-
moratorium, basically, correct?
Yeah.
I guess my question is, have you as a commission voted the change already?
Yes. Yes.
So I really just need to know what you voted and what changed and what you originally presented. I don't need to revisit the entire article.
Okay, so you're looking for 5 minutes?
Let's have a follow-up.
Pretty much.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
Good.
But I will take Amy as long as she wants to be there.
Seem to be here a lot lately.
I don't need a lot.
No.
And I don't think the board, I
But-
know the board won't need a lot.
So, but the board voted to put it on the warrant, but not to endorse or not endorse it, so
I would imagine we're not gonna vote that.
I was
until
wondering if you
we,
wanted to do all of that in one night. No? Okay.
we're gonna do all the warrant articles in one night. And I
how many?
don't envision that we're gonna need another presentation to
Okay.
vote support. We'll need you there.
That's all I know.
And certainly the chairman and maybe Brad, but
Yep.
obviously the whole commission can come, but we're not gonna revisit everything we've already talked about.
That's all I need to know. Thanks. Well, that makes lives easy.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you wanted to prepare something.
No, I'll prepare just the change.
You have
That's
a
it.
page.
Yeah, it'll be really just a cutout. I think I already actually gave it down, I already supplied it downstairs, but if you want it as a PowerPoint slide to project it for people to see, I can do that.
I would say have the PowerPoint on hand in case there's any questions.
Yep, we can do that.
And just bring it up.
Yep.
Specifically for questions.
Yeah, one thing we won't be able to really flesh out is, of course, the 5-year moratorium is to do a study on the river. And we haven't really discussed, what that will be comprised of, or anything like that.
And I don't think that will matter because you're not gonna have that right away anyway. So town meeting's gonna vote your proposal
Yep.
and vote the study. They're not gonna vote the actuals.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't matter.
Okay, good.
We're in the process, as Ernie was saying. There's no reason why we can't start putting together an RFP or a draft RFP for ideas of what we want it to cover so we can further vet that and get that going sooner rather than later. Regardless, it's a good thing to do. It's funding, the funding mechanism for that could easily be the wetlands account, revolving account. It fits very nicely into the allowable uses
Right.
of study. So, and we have the money in there to do that.
Well, and one of the things we've discussed at prior meetings too is that the sooner we can get this done, the more time we've got, because the 5-year window starts when it's approved by
Attorney General.
Attorney General. So if we can front load that with another 6 or 8, 10 months,
Yeah.
then that's all to our benefit.
So we hope to start that sooner rather than later.
And I would add that, with or without approval at town meeting, say it's voted down. I would
I think we need to do the study
still want
anyways.
to see the study occur. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. I sent you all a couple of emails about webinars, so.
Okay.
If you're bored, watch them.
Well, the hats are on, so I assume it's time to adjourn.
Oh, sorry. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Hey, nice job.
Nice job tonight, Ernie.
Very nice job, everybody. Michael, thank you so much for coming. It was very helpful.
I'm good.